approved by Outcasted OC. Viewer discretion is advised. Incoming transmission in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
What's going on, everybody? It's Courtney here from the Outcasted OC Podcast, and welcome to the Survivor Series review recap. I've literally just finished watching Survivor Series. I watched the press conference. I watched all of it, basically. I went and filmed a review for my TikTok, so go ahead and check that out. My TikTok is linked down below. But if you guys have not seen the watch along that we did for Survivor Series as the Outcasted crew, make sure you go ahead and check it out. It's on the channel right now. We had such a fun time doing it, and if you want to see more of those watch alongs, please let us know, because we would love to do more of them. Personally, I found it was so much fun watching it with the gang, so go ahead and check that out if you've missed it. But yeah, let's go ahead and talk about Survivor Series. Before we start, I just want to say, yes, I'm in a different location than normal. I've got a few issues going on with the power in my filming room, so unfortunately I can't use that space. But I personally don't like to make excuses when it comes to content. I just like to see how I can make things work. So we're in here, the lighting's pretty good, I'm happy. So let's talk about what happened on the Survivor Series card. So the women's Wargames match started off the card. You had Becky and Bayley starting off the match. They were working each other really well. And then obviously, because the babyface team, so Charlotte and Becky, Bianca and Shotzi, they actually won the advantage in the Ruffles vote. So we got to see them coming in and advantaging in the overall match as well too. So Shotzi came in. There was a lot of really good moves coming in. The teams worked really well together. There was moments where damage control looked like they weren't really working very well. We got to see Dakota helping out on the outside. She actually didn't make her entrance with damage control because they were obviously all going into the cages. She made her entrance somehow through the crowd. She came in and started handing weapons into the cage, considering that you have to grab weapons before you go into the cage. So she was very useful in that regard. There's a moment where Io had a set of, like, it was a chain, and what she did is she jumped on the top of the cage, threw the chain down, and then Dakota actually used a little carabiner on the end of the chains to actually help Io bring objects into the cage, which was really cool to see her helping out and obviously assisting the team. The entirety of damage control for me, I think Asuka, Io and Kairi very much felt like they were all on the same page and that Bayley was somewhat left out of the loop. And it kind of felt as though Bayley felt she had to prove herself to everybody in damage control throughout the match. There were moments where Bayley was taking many of the moves for damage control to prove that she was on their side. Very much reminded me of Sami Zayn trying to prove himself to the Bloodline in last year's Wargames match, which I'm not opposed to. But I can definitely see some tension starting to form within both teams. Bianca was looking fantastic during this. Shotzi was pulling out some awesome moves. I didn't think she wasn't going to. Honestly, I thought she was going to put on a hell of a show, considering she's been in a lot of these kind of stipulation matches in her time within WWE. I really enjoyed this match. One thing I did not enjoy, though, was the result of it. Now, I could be seen as complaining with this, but the babyface team won, so Bianca, Becky, Shotzi and Charlotte. Now, I'm not upset that they won. I'm just upset that damage control has lost. I don't understand why we couldn't have done that, but I see where it can go storyline wise now. I can definitely see that damage control is going to blame Bayley for the loss, considering that Bayley was the one that took the pin. But it was a great match all in all. Io hit some great spots. Charlotte hit her moonsault, which, I mean, I don't personally think her moonsault is that great, but that's a discussion for another day. So the babyface team won. I like the fact that they won, but I just kind of wish it was damage control. But I can definitely see where the storyline leans more towards with their loss. Obviously, they're now going to blame Bayley for the loss and maybe potentially kick her out of damage control. I'm very excited for this. I really enjoyed this match. I personally think this Wargames match this year was much better than last year's one. I just really enjoyed it. It was a great match for me. We then moved on to the Intercontinental Championship match, which was Gunther taking on The Miz. Now, this was a great match. They both put on a fantastic performance. I think after the Wargames match specifically, they definitely had a lot to live up to, and I think this match was really good. The Miz pulled out some of his old tricks, you know, low blows, taking the ring buckle off, throwing Gunther into that as well too. But Gunther does what he does best. He overpowered, he dominated, and he ultimately retained the title. I was happy with this match. I thought it was fantastic. I really loved it. I loved the chemistry that was going on between The Miz and Gunther. I loved the fact that it was the longest reigning IC champion going up against probably one of the most decorated IC champions of all time in The Miz. I thoroughly enjoyed this match. I would love to see this match take place again. I was quite surprised that Imperium didn't actually play any part in Gunther retaining. That was initially my prediction, that Giovanni and Ludwig would either come out and help Gunther or actually make him lose the match, so I'm surprised that they weren't around at all. Maybe Gunther was like, I don't need you guys, I'm not too sure, but I'm happy that Gunther has retained nonetheless, and I'm excited to see where they both go from here. The next match on the card that we had was Santos Escobar going up against Dragon Lee. Now, initially going into this, it was supposed to be Carlito going up against Santos Escobar, but there was an injury angle that happened on Friday Night SmackDown the night before Survivor Series, meaning that Carlito got beaten down by Santos, so much to the point where Dragon Lee was like, let me please take his spot. So we got to see Dragon Lee go up against Santos, and honestly, this was an incredible match for me. I genuinely feel as though they got to pay homage to Lucha Libre because the moves that were being pulled out by both Santos and Dragon Lee, I thoroughly enjoyed this match. I feel like I can't do it justice by talking about it. It was a fantastic match, and you're probably going to hear me say that quite a bit during the show because I just think it was such an awesome match and an awesome premium live event. I loved it so much. I'm a massive fan of Dragon Lee. I love him. I think he's great. I definitely think he has an incredibly bright future, and I'm so excited that he got to have this moment because his gear looked amazing, he looked amazing, he performed amazingly. The crowd is behind him as well too, so I feel as though he could be considered the next Rey Mysterio if you want to compare him to anybody on the main roster right now. But I loved this match. It was incredibly good, and I just think it was great. I forgot to mention this when it happened, but I'm just going to talk about it now. We had a moment which was kind of like an ad placement for Ruffles Chips, considering that they sponsored the majority of the premium live event. So we had a moment where Alpha Academy is eating the chips backstage, and then we see Elton Prince and Kit Wilson from Pretty Deadly come in, and they start having an argument with Otis about the chips. Chips get thrown on the ground, and then one of them's picking them up. When we see the return of R-Truth, which I was really excited by. I feel as though we really need him back in WWE, especially for the comedic factor as well too. And then we got to see Akira Tozawa hit his nasty looking dancing moves, which I thought was really cool. Then we also had a product placement moment for Slim Jim. Now this was LA Knight coming out, and it was really cool to see. He very much reminds me of Macho Man Randy Savage in his aura and the way he speaks, hence why I think he's used for those Slim Jim commercials, so he got to do that, which was really cool to see. And we got to see the New Day come into the stadium in the Slim Jim car. That was quite cool to see as well too. Next up, we had Rhea Ripley taking on Zoe Stark for the Women's World Championship. Now, this is probably my second favourite Rhea Ripley match of the entire year. My favourite match is definitely the WrestleMania one that she had with Charlotte Flair. I feel as though that really proved what women's wrestling could be considered. I enjoyed this match. Zoe Stark had a really good showing, and I definitely feel like she has improved in the ring quite a bit. I love her. I think she's great. Her promo's good. Her look is great. She's incredible. And I definitely think having her in the ring with Rhea Ripley definitely helped. I'm a bit annoyed that the crowd is still not really behind Zoe. I don't understand what that disconnect is between the crowd and Zoe Stark, but nonetheless, it was a really good match. Rhea Ripley looked incredible, ring gear wise and in performance. She definitely showed everybody why she is Mommy and why Mommy is always on top. So many good sequences within this match. I definitely think Rhea and Zoe have perfect in-ring chemistry. Now that's very strong of me to say, but I feel as though there was not a dull moment within this match as well too. You can't go ahead and say it was two big meaty men slapping meats because it doesn't work. It's literally just two dominating women just beating the crap out of each other. Rhea Ripley retained in this match, which I'm not complaining about. I definitely think Zoe Stark could be considered somebody to be a world champion at some point. I think it's just a case of right person, wrong time. I'm excited to see where she goes from here because I definitely want to make sure she stays in that main event picture because I definitely think she deserves it, and she's incredible. It sounds as though I am shilling out for Zoe Stark, but I really love her. I think her presentation is really good and she is just a phenomenal in-ring performer. Obviously with Rhea Ripley, she never fails to amaze me. She looked incredible and I just think she is just doing some incredible work on the main roster right now. Throughout the entire night, we were seeing segments with the babyface men's team for the Wargames match being confused and upset and just scared because Randy Orton had not made his way to the arena yet, meaning that technically if he wasn't there for the start of the match, it was going to be 5v4. So we go into the men's Wargames match, which main evented the premium live event with the entirety of the Judgment Day and Drew McIntyre, and we had Seth, Sammy, Jay and Cody. Now, Randy wasn't there at first, and I believe that was just to give him that moment for the entrance for that pop. So we start the match off. It's Finn and Seth working really well. We've seen a lot of matches from them in the past, so a lot of really good moves coming in. Finn's hitting really nice sling blades. Then we start to see more of the teams starting to come in. Now, there was many a moment during this match where Drew McIntyre and Damian Priest, they were very much not on the same page with each other. There's a moment where I think someone wanted to come in, and Drew McIntyre and Damian Priest kept staring at each other because Drew obviously is leaning more towards that psychopath gimmick, he's in charge kind of thing. But you have to remember that Damian Priest was in charge of this match as well too, in terms of being the leader of the Wargames team. So there's a little bit of tension going on between them two, and then we ended up seeing when Drew McIntyre came in, he was very much just stalking Jey Uso. It was his moment to have Jey Uso in a cage match with nobody else to help him out. It was literally just those two. There's a moment where everybody was in one of the rings and Jey was in one by himself, and Drew McIntyre just stalked Jey and started just clobbering in on him. More towards the end of the match, we saw Cody come in as the last participant for the babyface team, and then we saw the last participant from the Judgment Day come in, and we were a bit confused. We were like, is the timer going to happen? Is it going to come up? Which it did, meaning that we had 3 minutes until Randy Orton needed to come in. The match kept flowing really nicely, and then that 3-minute timer ended, and we were all kind of just like, is he back? Is he not back? The match continues, and then I hear voices in my head. They counsel me, they understand, they talk to me. I'm getting upset now. I literally bawled my eyes out when we were watching in the watch along, because I've watched Randy Orton for a very long time, and he is my childhood, and I am so happy that he's back. So it was really nice to see Randy come back. Randy looks incredible. He has definitely gotten bigger in terms of strength since he's been gone. He looks amazing. He looks like he's in phenomenal ring shape. He started doing what he does best, just hitting people with just massive moves, and he hit the RKO a few times, which I was kind of like, oh, please don't hurt yourself, because as we all know, he's had back surgery. So he obviously needs to be careful with what he does, but that's not my decision, that's his. But I'm just so incredibly excited that he's back. There's a moment where he kind of stared at Jey Uso a little bit, because obviously Jey Uso was the last person, one of the last people to have a match with him when he was in RK Bro before he ended up having to go away for surgery. So we got to see a moment where Randy Orton was very much like, well, what are you doing here? Why are you here? Like, are you not with the bloodline anymore, kind of thing. It looked like there was a moment where he was going to actually stalk on Jey Uso. But then I think he quickly realised that Jey Uso's turned his life around and is not really, seeing himself with the bloodline anymore. We got to see Sammy and Jay had a really nice 1D, Cody had a Cody cutter, and we got to see a really awesome RKO coming in. So there was a moment where Seth and Sammy were on the top of the cage. JD McDonough was there too. They threw him off, and then Randy Orton hit him with the RKO, and it was just beautiful. It was a great way to finish it. Babyface team came away with the win, so Team Cody won the match, which was initially my pick. I was so happy that they won. There was a moment as well too where I forgot to even mention this because I was so freaking excited about Randy's return. When the match actually started, we saw, before Randy Orton came out, we saw Rhea Ripley running out with the briefcase and a ref to try and cash in that Money in the Bank briefcase for Damian Priest, which that obviously didn't go ahead because Randy returned. And then the match obviously finished as it did, which was fantastic, awesome to see. There was a moment where I initially thought that Randy was going to turn on Jay or turn on Cody, but we see all 5 of the men standing in a line with their arms up, and the premium live event looked like it was starting to finish. And I said to the gang, I was like, oh, is that how they're going to finish it? Not trying to tease anything else. And they put the little copyright graphic up at the very end that they do when they've finished the show, and we were just sitting there just waiting, and out of nowhere we hear the and I was like, it can't be. And then I hear the crowd erupt, and all I hear is, look in my eyes, what do you see? The Cult of Personality. And you see CM Punk come out, and I just froze. My jaw on the floor. I fell to the ground. I couldn't believe it, because Everyone had been saying online that he wasn't coming back, and I said to the gang, I said, hey, I think if they're going to do it, they're going to do it in the same way they brought Cody back. Everyone's going to say he's not coming back, and he just shows up out of nowhere. The crowd went absolutely wild. Like, I haven't heard a pop like that in a very long time. Randy Orton's return pop was pretty loud, but this was like no other. CM Punk comes out, he's looking great. He's got a head of hair, he's rocking a white shirt, he just looks happy to be back. I am so hyped that he's back. I think the reason my reaction was so shocked was because, and I'd said this to the crew as well too, I kind of said, I want to put myself in a position where I don't mentally think he's going to come back. I'd rather just tell my brain he's not coming back, he's not coming back, he's not coming back. And then if that moment happens, I am pleasantly surprised. If it doesn't, I'm not disappointed. I just didn't want to set myself up for disappointment. But if you guys go back and watch the watch along, you will literally see my reaction. I couldn't believe it. I felt the same way about CM Punk's return to WWE as I did with Edge's debut to AEW. I had no words. I don't know what to think. I'm excited to see where he goes. I feel as though if we see a different CM Punk than what we did in 2013, 2014, I feel as though this, I just don't know. I have no words. I feel as though this was great. Survivor Series for me this year was a fantastic premium live event. I really enjoyed it from the start of the show to the end of the show. This for me is definitely PLE of the year. I'm so excited to see where we go in 2024. I think next is the Royal Rumble and then it's Elimination Chamber, which I'm going to be there. I'm so excited. I'm so happy. And I can feel myself getting emotional because I'm just so happy to see where we go from here. You know, if CM Punk's in a better place than he was when he was in WWE last, and I feel as though he feels that he wants to be there and put on a really good show and just do his job, I feel as though we should just see what happens and let it happen. But it's a wild time to be a wrestling fan, I think. And with that being said, that is the end of my Survivor Series review. If you enjoyed it, please make sure to go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe on the video. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. We put out reviews like this for PLEs. Every single PLE, it's normally me doing it. I enjoy talking about these with you guys. If you haven't checked out the watch along that we did for Survivor Series, make sure you go back and check that out. We have a lot of great moments in there, obviously from the entirety of the Survivor Series premium live event. If you want to see more watch alongs like that for PLEs like that, please let us know. We'd be happy to see if our schedule works out in that way. Also, make sure you go back and check the SmackDown review that G did yesterday, as well as the NXT and the Raw review from this week. We will be having the weekly reviews come out next week as well too, so I'll be doing the Monday Night Raw review. Reese will be doing your NXT and Ross will be doing your SmackDown. We're going to be having an AEW review coming in from Ross this week as well too. Make sure you go ahead and check out all of our personal social medias. They are linked down below, as well as the Outcasted Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. There's so much content going on everywhere, guys, so make sure you go ahead and check those socials out so you don't miss anything from us. I'll see you guys in the Raw review. I really hope you enjoyed Survivor Series because I loved it. I'll catch you guys later. Bye, guys.